I'm delighted to come to this beautiful building, or come back to this beautiful building, and just give you some thoughts, my thoughts on this this very, very important matter. I think it is a very important matter. I should say straight away that whatever the result is on the 23rd of June, then I think we should all accept that result, even if it's just by one vote. And I'd be very disappointed if Parliament, I know there's talk of Parliament saying, well, we don't accept this or we don't accept that. And I also hope that the EU accept it, although the EU don't have a particularly good record of accepting results in referendums. I think about the last 7 or 8 referendums they've had in the EU, I think they've only accepted 2 of the results. The rest either they refuse to accept or they kick back. So, but let's hope that is not the case in this case. So, just a bit about myself very quickly. I'm not a politician. I never have been a politician. And I'm not even a member of any political party. But I have been concerned about the EU for some years. And the businesses I've been in have all been import-export. So I've been exporting. I've had offices in Paris. I've had offices in Barcelona. I've had offices in China. So I've been involved in import-export, manufacturing in the UK and around the world. So I do understand, I think, a bit about trading and a bit about how one trades and one doesn't trade. In 1975, when we voted last on this matter, 85, 95, that's 41 years ago, the last time we were given a vote on this matter, we were voting on something called whether we'd come in or out of the European Economic Community. And I think it's quite important that we focus on the words economic community. Because at that stage, when we voted, we weren't voting for a political union. We weren't expecting, and we've been asked, the Schengen area, which of course means free movement of people, with the exception of, I think, England and Ireland. We weren't expecting a European Court of Justice. And we certainly weren't expecting a currency called the euro. There had already been trade groups around the world, and imagine in the 70s what the world was like at that time. There was the United States, there was the Soviet bloc with the Eastern European countries. And at the time it seemed like a good idea to join 8 other countries to make up a European trading area. And there are trading areas to this day around the world, but none of them have become what I think the European Union has become, which is a political union. And that really, if you like, is the main reason why I am so opposed to the EU and feel that now is an opportunity, a very good opportunity, probably the only last opportunity we'll ever have of getting off what I see as a bus that is moving very much in the direction of federation. Why do I say that? Well, I say that because I was in Hanoi recently. I drove on business, drove around a corner, and there was this whacking great big building with the European flag on it. I said to the guy I was with, "What's that building over there?" Oh, he said, "That's the European Embassy." And then I realised, of course, we've got embassies all over. The EU has got embassies all over the world. And to me, I couldn't quite understand. Then I know there's now talk of a European army. I realised, you know, this is actually quite a determined move from what I would call the bureaucrats of Brussels and the federalists. And I would like to just quote you a few words from a very famous federalist, one of the men who was a founding father of the European Union. And his name was Jean Monnet. And he wrote this in the 1950s. And he said the following: European nations should be guided towards a superstate without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will eventually and irrevocably lead to federation. And I think that sums up exactly what was the purpose of this EU in the very, very first place. Now, I can understand after the Second World War how it was regarded as important to have this superstate, to make sure that the Germans didn't, again, go down the route that they've gone down twice in the 20th century. But it has now become that political union. And this is the last opportunity, in my opinion, to get off a union which isn't working. I would point out, why do I say that the EU is not working? A, it's a federation, and B, it's not working. It's not working because when we joined in 1973, it was 37% of the world GDP. It's now less than 17% of world GDP. I'm afraid to say it's the only continent that, I think with the exception of Antarctica, which is not growing around the world. Everywhere else is growing around the world. You can see that. It is a European Union that has imposed business regulations, and a lot of business people here today, costing 33 billion a year. Now that's not a vote leave number, that's a number that's come actually from Open Europe. And Open Europe is actually a well-respected body that is working very, very closely, the chief executive, working very closely with David Cameron. 95% of British business does not work in the EU. 100% have to conform to EU standards. And for 19 years, the accounts of this body, as I understand it, whilst they have been signed off, have not been signed off without the note of considerable irregularities in these accounts and the expenditure. I could go on, I could talk about democracy, I can talk about the control of the borders, I can talk about the Eurozone, I can talk about free trade, but I think we'll come to those in questions. But my basic concern is this, that this is a political project. It's not something that I believed we were getting into in 1975. I'm a great believer of a free trade area. There is not one political union around the world, and this is worth thinking about. There is not one political union around the world like the European Union. The NAFTA, the USA, Canada, Mexico, is a trading area. Mercosur, South America, trading area, free trade area. Southeast Asia, ASEAN, free trade area. I am totally in favour of free trade areas. I think they're great for business and great for people to do business. But I am very, very concerned that we're on a bus that is leading inexorably to a superstate. And whatever people say about that's not happening, I would just ask the question, why do we have the European Court of Justice? Why do we have the Euro? Why do we have embassies around the world? Thank you.